I don't see any light coming.
Yes, sir. No, sir, it's not working.
It's working now.
Previously it worked, sir. No, it's not working.
See, I should see some light there.
Yes, sir. It's a laser light. I'll change the battery.
Okay. Okay, then you have to do it. Okay, all right. Okay, are we ready for the last session for today? Okay, so this section, incident handling and evidence collection, is very related to the previous section. See, it works. Oh, good. Okay, a cyber incident can be a cyber crime, but it doesn't have to be. Okay, and also here, if the cyber incident, you suspect it to be a cyber crime, then you have to do evidence collection. Okay, so again, there are laws for evidence collection, and we're going to touch upon that. And we are going to touch upon incident, what incident handling is, and even incident handling, there are rules strictly how it should be handled. In the U.S., for example, we have Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment. You cannot violate, when you answer, when you are trying to understand what the incident is, and you're trying to inquire, you cannot arbitrarily suspect somebody to do those kind of things. So essentially, there are laws for both incident handling, and more importantly, there are laws for evidence collection. Okay, so the data you collect are admissible in a court of law. Okay, so that will be the topic for the session. Okay, so understand industry standards and guidelines to develop capability to handle a cyber incident. And examine legal requirements associated with the incident handling, and get a basic understanding of digital forensics tools to collect evidence in the case of an attack intrusion. So you can prosecute, okay, or in the case of civil, you can also use it to collect civil damages, okay. And so you're going to look into explore laws and regulations governing digital evidence collection and their admissibility in Indian Code of Laws, okay. So that would be our goal for the session. Okay, so Prakash already touched upon some of these things, and of course his statistics was more related to cybercrime, where cyber attacks, as I said, is a little bit bigger. It doesn't have to be always a crime. At least not some of them are still not defined how to prosecute them. In general, in the world, denial of service is a crime. Some of the malware attacks are crime, and the crime, if it involves finally a criminal act, it could be crime, but not the attack itself. Okay, so there's a okay, and then there are things like foreign government do constantly surveillance. Technically, it's not a crime, okay, but people do. So anyway, there are three different kind of statistics. What numbers you want to believe. according to the Statista, which actually collects statistics for all kinds of things all over the world, according to them, there were more than 1.3 million cyber attacks across India in 2022. Okay, and there's much larger than what is in 2019, and is growing, in rapid fashion. And of course, the country was among the top 5 with the greatest number of cybersecurity incidents. It shouldn't surprise you. India is probably 3rd largest users of internet. Okay, and of course, only next to China, we have number of cell phones in India is only smaller than China. Okay, because almost everybody, even about 40% of Indians do own their own personal cell phones. Okay, and from Times of India, they make it a really big deal. If left unchecked, India could attract nearly 1 trillion cyber attacks annually by 2033. I don't know, but this is a projection from some article, something they based on. And this one is actually probably more reliable, DSCI. Over 400 million detections across approximately 8.5 million endpoints. Okay, so if you include cell phone as an endpoint, it is a lot more than that. I think what they really mean is just a computer, desktop and things like desktop and laptop and perhaps servers. I don't think they are including cell phones, because then it'll be like, 200 million. The automobile industry experiences the highest number of deductions in this country, and close to about 10% they claim it is essentially a type of deduction. They just go after large amount of money. We'll come to it in a minute. Okay, so this is a slightly different perspective on the statistics from the cybercrime. This is more attacks, okay? And again, there are 3 different views. I don't know which one you want to believe, but whichever one you want to believe, it is fairly high and getting to be more and more as more people use internet and cell phones. Okay, now we are more looking at the somewhat technical perspective, but still, talk about attacks from somewhat in a financial sense. Ransomware is probably now number 1 where they claim a lot of money. For example, one of the hospitals in England, they wanted $350 million for the system to be put back, okay? And, essentially, they encrypt, for example, all the patient's data. Then there's no way you can access patient data without they needing the help and getting the unencrypted, okay? So ransomware is one of the major type of attacks, cyber attacks, and it has a financial calculation. I'm not sure ransomware per se is a crime, okay? Again, definitely denial of service is a crime, ransomware I'm not sure, okay? And Trojan horse is essentially somebody plans something, it constantly watches you what you're doing. Okay, so again, technically they installed something without your knowledge. Sometimes it could be simply advertising thing that's coming into the machine. Strictly speaking, it is a intrusion. It should be a crime, but I'm not classified as a crime. And then malware infection. It could be worm. It could be simply virus. The difference between virus and worm is virus is more, it's not a complete program. Whereas worm is a complete program, moves one place to another place, but both can do all kinds of damage, anywhere from deleting file, stopping the system, you name it, okay? And a lot of times malware happens because of bad software security. And injection attacks, usually SQL injection attack happens all the time with the database-based system, so which is almost everything. And then email-based cyber attacks, phishing, spam, spoofing, and a few other things like this. Okay, so again, strictly speaking, spam may be a crime, but people are doing it all the time. Okay, but phishing is certainly a crime, but spam, I don't think anybody's prosecuting anybody for spam. Okay, so anyway, we are talking about in general cyber threat, cyber attacks. Not all of it are a crime. Okay, so here is the thing when it happens. Okay, always the thing is, cyber incident, either it already happened, you don't know, or it's going to happen. It's never a matter of if, it's only a matter of when. Okay, so all of us, anybody who has a reasonable system, is going to happen. Okay, sooner or later. So that's the way you want to view it, so that you put enough guidelines to handle cyber incident before it ever happens. Some of the things you want to do, according to this, is to create an incident response, handling and mitigation policy and plan, and develop procedures for performing incident handling and reporting, and set guidelines for communicating with outside parties regarding incident. This is sort of important because in a lot of places, your reputation depends on whether you have been attacked or not. Especially if you're in the financial industry, if people think your system are being attacked, they may not trust you enough to put their money there. Okay, so the reputation is under control. There are also laws that require you do have to report cyber incident, and you also report everybody that was affected. For example, if your personal information is stolen, there are laws that require that the person who was affected being notified, and also they provide credit protection. Again, I don't know if that exists in India, but that is a requirement in the US. If your personal information has been somehow jeopardized, there got to be, you are required to contact that person individually and provide them credit monitoring for next 3 years or 5 years. Okay, that's the law. And also many Wall Street companies or many financial companies, you have to report as a part of an annual report how many times you were attacked. Okay, so people can value your stocks in the right way. Okay, again, India hasn't quite advanced to all the thing to put all these requirements, but I'm sure it will get there sooner or later, this type of laws. Okay. And so, anyway, this is sort of very important. Not every country has a laws, but sooner or later they should and they will. Okay. Because incident, when it happens, it is very serious. So it might happen 1 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday. You have 4 more days of business left or 3 more days of business left. And you have to handle this very quickly, capture all the evidence, and bring the system back without the attack continues. So in a way, it is a very stressful situation because you're operating under extreme conditions, but you have to stop the attack, find what is happening, make sure only that part of the system is disconnected. The rest of the system you have to put back in production because otherwise you lose money. Okay, in telecommunication system, financial system, you cannot go without coming back online very quickly, but you should also stop all the thing and collect all the evidence. So sometimes you may have only a couple of hours at night to get all your act together, make that happen. So you cannot be thinking at the time how to do this. You have to have all the plans ready, call all the right people, so they all in communicate, and then they do it. There may be experts only for Linux system. There may be experts only for Windows system. You got to get everybody in, and everybody has to work together. Isolate the problem to the extent you can. Minimize the continued damage, put the thing back in production, and take all the steps necessary, if to prosecute if you think there is a crime there. Okay. Anyway, so the reason why all this planning is needed is when it happens, it is very stressful, and you got to do a lot of things very quickly. You don't have a lot of time. Okay, and so generally you have to establish relationship and lines of communication between the incident response team and other groups, both internal legal department and external law enforcement agencies, media. Okay, and develop legal action plan. Okay, so you never underestimate the importance of having a good incident plan, and then if you don't have a plan, you're not going to execute. Even if you have a good plan, you may not still be able to execute because plans and execution are not the same. I mean, there gotta be people who can work under pressure, and that is what's required. Okay, now. Okay, so what is digital forensics? Suppose you assume or suspect bad things have happened and there are some of them are attacked. So you have to collect and preserve evidence and presenting it in a court of law, okay? And the data have to be collected in a variety of computers, cell phones, volatile RAM memory, storage unit, such as disk, and the data in transit and network. There are tools for each one of them, and then there are platforms which bring a lot of these things together. I will go through some of them, but the focus is not technology, but the legal aspects. The data needs to be collected as soon as possible after the incident or while it is still ongoing. After collecting the data, the machines have to be taken out of the network and turned off to prevent continued attack, intrusion, or crime. And of course, disaster recovery and business continuity is going to be a topic tomorrow, and we'll talk about that. Okay. And one other thing is need to maintain the integrity of data collected during the chain of custody. So whatever you collect, okay, you have to make sure that the collected data isn't purposely or accidentally modified, deleted, and so on. Okay, so that's what chain of custody means. In other words, you have to tell the court that this is what I collected. Nobody, messed with it, and this is what happened at the time. Okay, so this is, and there are cyber technologies that exist to do that, which is basically cryptography. You encrypt everything, you put, integrity check, and then make sure that, those things prove that things have not been changed. Okay. Okay, there are a lot of tools. I don't want you to go through every one of them, but basically what's happening is the digital forensic tools can fall into many different categories, including database forensics, disk and data capture, email analysis, file viewers, internet analysis, mobile device, and so on. And these are some of the platforms. They can do slightly different things, but the important thing is you have this, many of them are open source. And the two important things I will say is the EnCase, one of the best tools, okay, and probably coffee, okay. And, they are just a platform. They have a lot of tools underneath with a good user interface and API. You can collect data from the disk, you can collect data from the files, you can collect data from the RAM memory. All these things you can do, and all you have to do is to start the process. It will do this quickly. Okay, then of course there are tools like Snort, Wireshark, which is a very specific thing. Wireshark is basically network analysis. It captures all the packets at the time. Wireshark, for example, is very good in helping you whether denial of service attacks has taken place. Okay, you can look at the packets and see what's going on. And Snort is a more runtime system, intrusion detection tool. It sniffs packets, lock packets, so have a history of what happened before the attack, after the attack, and during the attack. So you can You can find what's going on, okay? And, okay, so what is the requirement in India right now? The subsection 6 of 70B of the Information Technology Act, okay? It requires your incident to be reported within six hours. Required of any service provider, okay, and intermediary, like platform like cloud computer, data center, body, corporate, and government organization, you have to report cyber incident to CERT-IN, okay? And the cybersecurity incident types to be reported include almost everything. I mean, they include target scanning, probing, identity theft. You don't even know what they are yet because you just got attacked. You really don't know what they are. But they're basically saying, regardless of this type, just report it, but it looks like they're including everything, including the defacement of website. Okay, so India, it doesn't say if you're a small company, you don't have to report it. It simply says, all these people have to report it, okay? So, and if you're an individual computer, probably not, your home computer. But other than that, it looks like you have to report everything. But one of the advantages of reporting is, the several advantages. They can find out whether same attack happened somewhere else. See, for example, several types of banks, okay? And they can also find out whether if one transportation company to another transportation company, whether it happened railways, buses, and all those things. So there's a sabotage from terrorist organizations. So essentially, by reporting to central place, they can find out whether these things are related, and they use the same common technology. And if something happened only 2 hours before and they have found out what the problem is, they can immediately help you to fix the problem as well. So, in some sense, it looks like big governments want you to report everything to them, but on the other hand, there are benefits to reporting to them, okay? So, and basically they can correlate, analyze the breach with the similar breaches. CERT-IN can also provide you technical assistance. In fact, if they can, at 2 o'clock in the morning, if you don't know what you're doing, they may be able to come in and help you to do the kind of things, the right thing to do, okay? So even medium-sized companies may not have all the resources to do this themselves, but CERT-IN will be happy to step in. Okay, CERT-IN can also assist with the recovery and business continuity. Okay, so this is not simply, handling the incident, but the aftermath. Now, one question is, I don't think India they're requiring you have to report to, stockholders. You have to report to individuals. Okay, so again, I don't know what the laws are right now, but there is no requirement right now. Only thing required is you report to them. Maybe they will report to individual users, I don't know. But that's where we stand. Okay, so now, let's go to laws on admissibility, okay? In section 92 of the Act, evidence was amended to including electronic record. I think, Prakash already touched upon it, okay? So, which is good. Before that, you got to make a printed copy of something. If you have a binary file of your memory, who is going to make any sense out of it if it's printed? Okay, and section 65B of the Evidence Act, if electronic evidence is primary, I think again Prakash touched upon it, it's admissible in a court of law. Before that, you have to make a copy, printed copy and all those things, and somebody has to certify. But right now, only the law says if it is secondary, if it is a copy, then it requires a certificate of authenticity. It has to be signed by a person, a responsible person in the organization, in the operation of the relevant device, or of a person who is in the management of the relevant activities involved. So it requires the human involvement. They have to certify it is true evidence that that I have collected, and it represents the aftermath, the soon after aftermath of the incident. Okay, and okay, in India, if the primary one evidence, the electronic evidence primary, there is nothing it says about how you are preserving the evidence without that being altered. Okay, so but they don't talk about chain of custody. When you have the evidence, you're not going to sit in one machine because that machine can be attacked again. It may have to go through several things, so it passes several hands or several machines. Each time when you go to different machines, if somebody is a criminal, they're also after altering the evidence. Okay, so technically, they should be asking that evidence the chain of custody be preserved to a point where you can be sure it was not altered. And I don't see that law anywhere here, okay? But that is important. Otherwise, how do you know that evidence didn't change? Okay, all you need to change is a few bits, and you lost a lot of it, okay? Okay, so that's sort of one thing. Okay, in India, it's also required any evidence you collect is during the normal operation of the machine. In other words, you didn't purposely introduce a machine to prove somebody you don't like attacked it. Okay, it has to be in the normal operation. Okay, so that means, essentially somehow you have to prove, you weren't sucking in somebody to attack you so that you can put them in jail. Okay, so it has to be normal sense of operation, and then it must have attacked. And for that, it's not clear what proof you need, but that is required. Okay, so that is where we are, and let's see what's the next one. Okay, so this basically, give you various resources. The Geek per Geeks and Subarg is essentially forensic evidence, forensic tools. The other one is the admission of admissibility electronic evidence. Again, use of electronic evidence in judicial proceedings. And the first one is, of course, the planning of your incident. Okay, so that is what I have for this session. Okay, we fairly went through very quickly because at the end of the day, I don't want to keep on going, but it also gives you a few minutes to do the homework that required to be done. So if you have any questions, let me answer.
Do we have insurance coverage for cybercrime?
Do you have insurance? Yes, I think it is not clear the law requires you insure.
But do insurance companies accept?
Yes, see, okay, that's a certain different topic, which I know something about. The cyber incident, the way it works is you can insure for things like recovery. They may give you $100,000 to bring the system back to life. They may limit the damage to $40,000 or whatever. Essentially, they won't take responsibility for everything. Usually, they provide insurance to put you back in operation, and they give you money. So most policies don't go to the extent of covering all your damage, but they also subject you to do complete risk analysis before they will insure you. And also you have to do penetration testing periodically they will ask you to do all those things. And essentially, they will continuously monitor to minimize your risk, which by itself may be very good, okay? But then you may have to pay for all those things. But again, usually they provide insurance not for all your damages, but generally to bring you back to quickly to do business. They limit the liability to fairly small amount. There are several companies in the US now provide insurance. I am sure there are companies here as well, okay? But you are subject to continuous risk analysis and penetration testing and things of that kind, which might itself be very good, okay? So sometimes having insurance is good because they are making sure that you follow all the best procedures to keep the incidents low. Okay. Yes. Again, I don't know whether any law exists that require you do insurance. Okay, so even Reserve Bank of India, as far as I know, there is no requirement that putting on individual banks or individual that, okay, they may be asking you to set aside a certain amount of money for cyber incidents. Again, I don't know, okay? We have to read the Reserve Bank of India guidelines. Reserve Bank of India is very good, actually, to be honest. They are some of the best in the world in terms of putting all these things, okay? And again, I don't know exactly whether they ask you to put certain amount of money for cyber incident. I don't know, okay? Okay, any other question? By the way, there are specialization nowadays just for forensic, digital forensics. You can get a degree even in India on digital forensics. And hopefully that place will also teach you a lot about cyber law related to incident. And many police officers increasingly are trained to become a forensic expert. Okay, there is in fact, I just saw a few months, maybe a year ago, there are 2 or 3 colleges opening up in India just to focus on digital forensics. Okay, so it is a very, it could be a very lucrative field. Okay. So if you're considering a career in forensics, see, remember, forensics requires a lot of underlying computer knowledge. You have to know a lot about operating system. You have to know a lot about operating system. You have to know a lot about just the network. So people who are really technology savvy in the hands-on sense, forensics is a very good field to be in. And increasingly there are tools getting to be more and more sophisticated. So, it's something you don't have to start from scratch, but still a long way to go. I mean, the key point is you got to do forensics very quickly. And all the experts have to be in the same room and get things done. And also when you do forensics, you are actually changing the system itself. And you have to collect evidence without affecting the evidence. Okay, I mean, those are all required to really know who did it, what, and the court will accept, yes. If you manage to mess up the evidence when you're collecting, it can be solved because there are a lot of lawyers who specialize in a lot of these things, and they're going to say, your evidence doesn't support any of these things. Okay, so it's a field. It's getting to be more and more sophisticated, but there's a lot of things you can do, and also you have to know the law part of it. Okay. All right. Any other question? Okay, Dr. Janet, we have about 20 minutes. They can do homework, whatever you'd like you to do.